Unmute. I think I'm going to ask Alex just to mute, get a little bit of feedback from you. So I'm just going to throw you on mute, Alex. If you ever need anything, just you can unmute, but I'm just going to throw you on for now.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the October meeting of the Ulster County Transportation Council. Welcome, everybody. Ryan, thank you, everyone. Why don't we go call for citizens? Do we need to do introductions?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm Dennis Doyle from the planning director. We'll go around the room and we'll have Dave call the names for people on the on remote. Thank you.
Neil Battaz, New Paltz Town Supervisor. Tony Trojan, area chairman. That workman, area change it.
Herb Liz. UPI County Legislature.
Allie Fairley, New York State Department of Transportation. Nicole Farmer, DOT.
Ed Fine, Ulster County DPW.
Jean Walsh, Resident Supervisor.
Ryan Slack, Ulster County Transportation Council.
Steve Stotts, UCTC, and then in the room.
In the room.
Public unit, I do Thames Highway and Circuit. Resident Thames Highway Circuit.
And Dave, if you would find
On the line, we have Alex Wade, Chris Kate, Leanne Thornton. Sorry, bounced around there. Ruth Ann from City of Kingston, Shelley Johnston, and John Schulteis. Did I miss anyone? Okay.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Call for citizens' comments. Any citizens' comments? Anybody on the line?
See none from the line.
Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the August 22nd, 2023 Technical Committee Meeting Summary. Thank you, Mr. Litz. Do I have a second? Thank you, Supervisor Battaz. I have a motion and a second. Any comments? Hearing none. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, you have one abstention. Thank you. Communications and announcements, Brian.
Sure, the biggest communication, I don't have any printed materials associated with it, but it did go out in the UCTC mailing list, is the announcement from New York State DOT regarding the Transportation Alternatives Program. There's a new funding source combined with this year's call for projects that includes the carbon reduction program funding. So it makes available a few different types of project classifications that have not been available in the past through the CRP funding program. That includes carbon reduction projects. Eligibility include projects such as intelligent transportation systems for traffic signals, and other types of emissions reduction projects, including EV charging facilities, and also transit project eligibility is listed as well. But then the traditional transportation alternatives program projects are non-motorized project eligibility categories. Maximum award is $5 million. Minimum award is $500,000. Deadline is, I believe, in January. Apologies for not having that hard date, but there's a pre-application deadline of later in November as well. And municipalities are considering proposing a project. It is very advantageous to submit through the pre-application procedure to NISDOT that will give you some preliminary feedback on your application. And of course, if municipalities are interested in a project, you can always reach out to UCTC to get our insight and advice. We do review these project awards, not in our region, but outside of our region. So we have a lot of familiarity with what makes a successful TAP project disposal.
I think the DOT added a third webinar session as well. So if you are considering applying, you do need to participate in those webinars, and the ones that they added is scheduled for November 2nd from 9 to noon. It's a 3-hour one. So
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, David. Anything on tap? No pun intended. Okay, hearing none. New business, no other communications, Brian?
No, thank you. Oh, there's one announcement.
What's up?
We're joined here today by Scott Workman, who is new Deputy Director of Ulster County Area Transit.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Scott, you want to say something about yourself?
Yeah,
Pleasant, I hope.
sure. With 5 minutes. I came here from a law firm. I was a programmer. I have a background in planning from way back. Planning jobs are hard to find in Maine, so I went back to a previous career in IT management, running a college's IT shop. I ran the ARC's IT shop as CMO for a long time. But dabbled between programming, data analytics, and IT management and planning. That's it.
Welcome aboard. So we have a full roster in admin with Tony as well, Assistant Tony Rozier. So we're very pleased to have everybody on board.
Thanks,
And-
Scott.
And assisting us in projects going forward.
Love the projects.
Yeah.
Thanks, Scott. New business. This could be a very short meeting. New business draft UCTC resolution 2023-11, adoption of the 2020 adjusted urban boundary and metropolitan planning area for the Ulster County Transportation Council. I have a motion for discussion purposes.
Make a motion.
Thank you, Gene. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Litz. I have a second motion, and a second discussion. Brian.
I would love to provide some insight to this process, but quite frankly, David has been leading it from the beginning. So David, if you don't mind taking.
Sure, every 10 years, the census goes out and, does the decennial census. And as part of that, there's a new urbanized area that is drawn up, which is based off of number of housing units, population density, and, there's skips and jumps of how far you can go. This year, this go around, they did change the methodology slightly, so you can't jump as far, which in our instance led to a substantial decrease in the urbanized area. We barely hit the 50,000 population mark that's required for an MPO, so we're now the 6th smallest MPO in the U.S. And as part of that, so that's what comes out of the census, and then we are able to smooth that boundary to kind of match up with your transportation facilities and where you would anticipate growth, and just to make sure that things are matching up and kind of make sense as it relates to transportation. So we go through this adjustment period, which is what we're doing here. So this is a static map that's just part of the resolution. We also have a dynamic map that's been put together from the state to highlight these, so you can zoom in and around if there's areas that you want to see. So green in the background would be the previous 2010 boundary, and then the blue is what we're using. Oh man, this one is what we're doing for the current one. Yeah, semi-static, exactly. So one of the big changes is previously we had to extend outside of Ulster County into Greene County with 7 census blocks. And that was because that was determined to be an urban area. And so anything that was determined to be an urban area, we have to include. But that's now since dropped out with the changes. So we're opting to no longer kind of include this whole section up here and taking it just to where we're required. Another kind of interesting change would be how we're making the connection into Woodstock. Wow. Yeah, previously we were required to run up here kind of, and instead we're taking Route 28 corridor, which is also, this was actually an addition, this little offshoot here, and then we just extended it on up to make sure that we were getting Woodstock. They no longer differentiate between the small small urban clusters. So we also did the smoothing. We were also responsible for the smoothing process in Ellenville, Warsing, whereas previously that was more done in direct, directly between DOT and the town. We were involved in that process, but we did smooth that a little bit more. And a lot of the changes that you're seeing here is previously we had to follow census geographies. And we've since we don't have to do that anymore. So we're cutting off some areas where there's no roads, and quite frankly, we're just there as a geographic artifact. So cutting those kind of down. I think those are kind of the major changes. Actually, this is another one. New Paltz that we should touch on. So there were previously we had two urbanized areas. We had the Kingston urbanized area, and then the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut one that kind of extended down and brought us into the transportation management agent area with Orange and Dutchess. This time, and we previously had just shown one urbanized area, which was connecting Kingston and the Mid-Hudson one. Now the feds really want to make sure that we're showing the distinction between these urbanized areas. So we have the Kingston one, which we cut off there, and then New Paltz, which kind of comes in as a smaller area, and then connecting into the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut one. So that's another change that we're seeing. But for the most part, we're covering all the urbanized areas and just kind of taking in some of the areas that are no longer required.
Can you give us a sense, Dave, in terms of what this means on the ground as
Right.
terms of roads?
Yeah. So the implications of these boundaries, this is how your functional classifications are determined. Mostly it's the distinction between rural and urban for your functional class changes, and that allows you access to different sources of funding. So if you're not in an urbanized area and there's like a flood event, let's say, you would be using FEMA funds, which have a different reimbursement rate than if you were in the urbanized area and you were using FHWA funding. So there's some advantages there depending on how you look at it. The urbanized area generally opens up more funding, I feel, to you if you're in it. That's me. I mean, differences of opinions of the federal aid process and having to go through that. But yeah.
And the goal is that you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you go along a road
Right.
corridor and you're classified as urban, and then you move into a corridor, portion of the corridor is classified as rural. It creates some significant funding issues in terms of your availability of funding. So that's the other reason that you start to see us run corridors as much as we can without leaving areas out, which if anybody knows the area between New Paltz and Rosendale, there's not a lot of houses.
Yeah, and in the smoothing process, yeah, we try to take care of that. We even found some that from the last go around where a road went from rural to urban to rural, and back and forth. And yeah, and then you try to avoid that. No, so once you hit a certain functional classification, the rural urban distinction doesn't matter quite so much as far as federal aid funding. It's really more when you get like just above a local road that it really makes a difference. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a US DOT road. It's not a state route. It's actually a national route. So that has a separate funding category associated with it. There is not related to the actual boundaries that we're doing here in terms of the smoothing process. The changes in the census geography and in 2020 will have implications for funding for transit, because the funding for transit is dependent upon population. And so population in these areas, particularly in the Kingston urban area, declined significantly because of the loss of areas just outside the areas. And what Dave was alluding to, some of the hops, skips, and jumps that take place. And then we've lost area in the south as well relative to the TMA area. So that area as well will see some changes with funding.
And that's based on the non-smooth boundary.
correct.
So if we were to expand out our boundary, that doesn't do anything to bring in additional funding. So that should be clear on that.
So there is some implications for transit funding in here, and there's implications for the MPO's funding allocation because of the population that we lost. So we're likely to see a change in our funding allocations based on the change in population. Any questions about that?
And we'll make this link available on our website. We have offered a letter of support from staff to New York State DOT. And then it's going to continue going through an approval process.
So these are the urban area boundaries. Ryan, can you say what we've also done relative to the planning area?
All right.
Sure. So as David indicated, under Census 2010, the urbanized area boundary went into Greene County with total 7 census blocks. It was kind of a bit of a surprise at the time, but we're required to include every portion of the urbanized area within our planning area. So we included Greene County on all of our correspondence, and that small portion was included as part of the metropolitan planning area, which is essentially the MPA is where the MPO is authorized to conduct our planning activities. And so we have that tiny little bump in Greene County. Otherwise, our metropolitan planning area is contiguous with Ulster County boundary. So during this iteration in 2020, since the urbanized area was cut back and no longer includes Greene County, so once again, our metropolitan planning area is solely contiguous with Ulster County boundary.
So I have a comment on the line from Alex Wade. It looks like you have eliminated the east portion of our village, and there's a question as to why. I'm not sure.
It's the village right there.
I think we have the village covered here.
So Alex, it looks to us that the village is covered. We wouldn't, and it is if the village is part of the 2010, there's been no changes up through that area that we're aware of.
Okay, it was small scale, so it looked like
I know it's
a
difficult,
section.
especially with that resolution map. It's, the scale is just really tough. So I'm going to make sure that we have this viewer either posted on our website, or I'll send it around via email. So if you want to check it out and zoom around, by all means. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Be sure to send it
So
around.
do we run to the center of the river?
For the most, yes, for the most part, and that matches up with Dutchess.
So yeah, that's what we did.
When as where they match up, because this is actually going to show Dutchess as well, but they don't come over until a little bit
Okay.
further south.
All right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, of course.
Back to the map again, from Kings Highway then to the village.
I believe that's
The rail, the side of the railroad is on.
It is.
I don't know that there's any implications though for the rail line to be in the urbanized area versus the non, as far as I'm aware of.
But it is in that,
It is.
urbanized, so we should keep that in mind anyway, in case any kind of an opportunity comes up.
Okay.
As far as maybe.
Well,
Any other comments? Hearing none. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So carried. Thank you. Item B, draft UCTC resolution 2023-12, amendment to the 2023 Unified Planning Work Program to add cost to UPW project number 44.23.01-01, development of a long-range transportation plan. I have a motion for discussion purposes.
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Gene. Do I have a second? Mr. Pine, I have a motion and a second. Brian?
Sure. So Ulster County Transportation Council is required to update its long-range transportation plan every 5 years. The next update is due no later than September 30th, 2024. UCTC staff have decided to largely conduct this work in-house. However, we are seeking consultant assistance to guide the public outreach process associated with the long-range plan. And as part of that, we issued a request for proposals. And we received 2 responses from that RFP, which is guided by the Ulster County Purchasing Department. And whenever we conduct a request for proposals utilizing FHWA funds, it's always a qualifications-based procurement process. Cost can be considered as a factor, but it's predominantly driven by qualifications and the quality of the response. The preferred response, we were not able to announce at this point in time because we don't have an executed contract. But the preferred response did come in beyond what we had budgeted in the 2023 UPWP for this project. We had originally earmarked $75,000, and the response came in at $98,574 to conduct a protracted public engagement process, including digital tool development, survey development, and monitoring of social media and a variety of other deliverables that they would be providing.
Also moving the plan into a digital format as well.
It's working towards digitization of the plan. The components of the contract are yet to be determined at this point in time, but we did want to make sure that we had the proper amount of money set aside. So in order to do that, we have several options. I should say first that any change to a UPW project in excess of 25% of the existing project requires an amendment to the document. So the amount of money that we're adding comes to roughly 32%. So that includes the difference between what we had budgeted and what was proposed, plus an additional $5,000 for staff support, which I had not included in the original UPWP. So the total increase is $28,574. At this point, I want to direct your attention to attachment 1 of the resolution. If you look at the bottom, there is a misprint. That is my fault. If you look at the black and white table where it shows as amended, the lower right-hand corner, 97,426, that should actually be 92,426. And let me explain. So we have a variety of options as to where we pull the money from for the overage for the amendment. We can take it from our savings. We have $276,000 in unprogrammed funds in FHW and PL fund. Or we can move it internally from another project that's already programmed on the UPWP that we are not planning on executing this year or next. And that's what we've opted to do in this arrangement. We have programmed funding in the amount of $120,000 in federal funds for the Ulster Avenue Corridor Management Plan, and that's Ulster Avenue and Albany Avenue in the city of Kingston, town of Ulster. We have every intention of moving forward with that project. We just don't expect to be able to initiate it next year, given the amount of work we have in front of us right now. So I'm proposing we do an internal offset of the $28,574, take it from that project and add it to the long-range plan. The reason why I've been doing that, as opposed to taking it from the unprogrammed balance, it makes the accounting a lot easier between me, New York State DOT, and the FHWA if we do it internally. If I take it from the fund balance, it tends to have a domino effect on a variety of other amendments that I would have to then make to different tracking documents. So that's my preference at this time.
And we can pull the money back in when we adopt in April.
Thank you. And
That's
that would
correct.
be my intent, is I would add the money back in when we do our next UPW. Thank you.
2 questions.
Sure.
What was you said the preferred vendor was 98,574. What was the other vendors?
It was way above that, right?
160 or something. like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It was
So,
over 150.
yeah. And so we got lucky that actually the preferred proposal actually was also more cost effective. It doesn't always work out.
Same.
that way.
It's same proposal. Same. And would you have to go back out to bid for this, or can you just,
No.
once you amend this, you can just accept
That's
that?
correct. The valid procurement. Any other questions? So on the on the amendment to amend the amount to what's done, right?
The amount for the new long-range transportation plan, the federal share would be 103,574.
And the misprint would change to,
So it would decrease the Kingston and Town of Ulster corridor management plan from 120,000 to 92,426.
so on the amendment. Any opposed?
Can I just, one question?
Absolutely.
Who was, can we say who the consultant was?
I don't know why we can't. There's an award letter going. Did the award letter go out?
I think we did issue the award letter.
It was a public opening, right?
No, yes, they are public openings. That's
So
correct.
we have to
But it's not a bid document.
Right,
So it doesn't matter, there are,
right, it's a.
so I don't know whether the award letter is out.
We did tell purchasing to issue. the
Okay,
award.
so if the award letter is out, then the answer is yes. And it's a company called,
FHI Studio.
Yeah.
Formerly Fitzgerald Halliday Engineering, and they did change their branding and title to FHI Studio because they're doing quite a bit of graphic design and this type of public outreach work, assistance for metropolitan planning agencies and municipalities.
Was it a local firm or is it?
I believe they're
Connecticut.
based in Connecticut.
They
They also did have on their resume the completion of the Dutchess County Transportation Council a public engagement process as well, which we have put at the top of our list of things that really.
And we'll engage in contract negotiations with the firm. But we've had an extensive conversation with them after initial review, so. An extensive conversation, but we're still in contract negotiations right now. Any other thing?
I'm done with my questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
On the amendment? Any opposed? Any abstentions? On the resolution? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay,
And I'll make that correction to the policy committee. Thank you.
item number 6, other old business. Project updates, Brian?
Sure, before I do that, one item that I forgot to add to the agenda is the annual call for planning projects. Every year, we issue a call for Unified Planning Work Program planning projects. These are opportunities for municipalities to submit suggestions or proposals to us to do planning studies within their jurisdictions regarding any variety of transportation issues. This is where the Kingston, Town of Ulster 9W and Ulster Avenue corridor management plans originated from, the Broadway corridor management plan, and a variety of other specific transportation management plans have originated through the Unified Planning Work Program. So if you go to the UCTC website, to the Unified Planning Work Program page, you can find the application there. It's the same application that we've issued every year. I apologize for not having a formal presentation on it, but it is very straightforward. It's a Word document, and it essentially just asks the applicant to explain the issue of concern, identify the problem, perceived or otherwise, and then explain how it relates to our core documents, mainly the long-range transportation plan. It is specifically intended to be a relatively easy lift for a municipality. We do not want municipalities hiring consultants to then prepare applications here. It's really shouldn't be necessary. And I'm always available to lend assistance or to lend an ear to whatever sort of issues or proposals municipalities may be considering. So that call is now available through our website. The deadline is the second week in December on Friday. Any questions there? Apologies for not having examples.
Did we notice that to the municipalities?
I don't think we have
No,
noticed.
so we'll notice that to all the municipalities by the end of this week. So you have it, and the website location, so you'll see that.
That's all I have on
Anything
the UPW.
Okay. So now we're on to other old business. And TAP, we've already discussed. So project updates?
Sure, I'll run through some notable project updates. Dave, could you bring the LRTP, or I'm sorry, the website? UCTC has been working with a consultant firm out of Colony called Braun Media. And we're updating our website to be a new WordPress website. And we have a very preliminary test page that we wanted to share with you to give you a sense of the format and layout of the new site that they've been working on. So you'll note that everything is now in line with the UCTC brand standards that were developed in 2020 in terms of color, layout, palette, fonts. And yeah, go highlight over planning stage. The big highlight for us, I think, and the big push is to have a better categorization and organization of our planning studies, our archive folder. It's really difficult to find the archives. We tried to do some improvements by including the name of the municipality where the work was done, as well as the year and the title, so you could at least do sort of a self-sort. But still, it makes it difficult to find a discrete study if you're looking for a specific topic or a geographic focus area. So now we'll be tagging all of our studies, and it should be much easier to find it by subject, and we'll be able to search. So if there's a particular area of interest or geographic location, the search bar will be there to help direct folks that might not be as familiar with our work or the MPO to find a specific study. We don't have a huge archive, probably, I would say roughly 40 studies, but when you combine all that information together, it's quite a bit of information. Also, the meetings page that Dave is highlighting will have a calendar, and the agenda and meeting archive should be much more easier for the public to navigate as well. There's not a lot of information populated here. This is very much a work in progress.
Framework more than anything else.
A lot of the information that is currently on the website is just being transferred over. It's a reorganization. All this work is being done for a total project cost of $12,500, which we think is a real bargain. And we're looking very forward to the outcome, which is on schedule for a December completion and activation. Are there any other highlights from the new webpage that I wasn't thinking about?
Yeah, I think just it'd be nice to have the meetings page that will function, I think, a lot better. And the ability, yeah, like you said, the planning studies to be able to drill down into the categories, I think will be nice.
Great. So that's the website update. The Route 9W corridor management plan is ongoing. We're in task 4 out of a total of 5 tasks, which is development of the draft recommendations. We received some preliminary recommendations from our consultants, Creighton Manning, and they really have quite a bit more work to do before we're ready to A, present them to our technical advisory committee, and then B, bring them to the public. And we have at least 2 public workshops are included in that contract to present our preliminary and our draft recommendations to the public, which would include, I would imagine, a presentation to the town board and the town of Ulster. Those recommendations will be coming forward through a story map framework. So it should be as opposed to a detailed PDF design document, it should be a relatively user-friendly report that will be available digitally. That's the 9W document. The project is scheduled for total completion no later than March 31st of 2024. We really hope to have our draft recommendations ready for public review by the end of this year. That's 9W. railroad safety plan? Dave, you have
Yeah,
that?
the railroad safety plan, we have an open house, virtual open house. Scheduled for tomorrow, so that will be 6 to 7:30 p.m. Via Zoom. So we're asking people to register and join. And we're really just kind of giving a project overview at this point and soliciting some input and feedback on the crossing locations within Kingston. If you're unable to attend, we do have like a little video for the project, and then survey open as well.
So the web page that Dave has open now is yet another tool in our toolbox for public engagement. Do you want to?
Right, so the Ulster County government has rolled out an engagement HQ platform called Participate Ulster. So this is very similar to, it's the same platform that's used by the city of Kingston with their oh geez, what is it called?
Engage.
Yeah, Engage Kingston. Sorry, I'm drilling Participate Ulster into my head right now. So here it gets a little bit it's a broader platform, so we get a little bit more reach than the UCTC page. So we're trying, as we do our projects, to make sure that we're putting these pages together for each one, and with key dates, kind of the life cycle of the project and survey tools, to hopefully get some more eyes on our work, and use the broader platform of the Ulster County Executive to get more participation. We all still do have our project page on the county website, but this is just another avenue to try to get more people to participate. Traffic counts. We had traffic counts placed last week with our contractor NDS. We do have the draft locations where we should expect those out on the traffic count webpage. We did get, well, I think Shandaken, there were a couple of questions about some counters out in Shandaken where they got some concerns, which made their way back to me. So we let them know what was going on. And yeah, so we'll look forward to getting that data in from NDS. This is our first year with them. We'll take a look at the map.
I think that might be the one that Andrew got an email on, wondering what is this strange device?
Yeah, and they're opting. I don't think they're. I was gonna say this time they're not doing a lot of tubes.
Out there.
So NDS has their own proprietary video system that they use, as opposed previously with our prior contractor, they would use another vendor's system called MyoVision. But NDS just has all their own equipment. They do all the video processing on their own. I guess it's cheaper for them to do video counts than it is to do ATRs, which, hey, it's great. Less nails in the road, and
Big brother's watching.
right. So we got concerns up in Shandaken surrounding those. So
When is it gonna be done?
I think they're already off the ones. We'll see if they got them all out in that first batch or not.
After they get the cameras back from the neighbors or something.
Yeah, yeah,
There's a few, like, I see there's one on Henry W.
yeah.
So I'd like to see the data
Oh yeah, and
to help us with,
as
and
soon
is it just vehicles, or with these cameras, can they also be like?
Classification count.
so we're doing classification, which isn't necessarily including bike ped. In this instance, it would be a special count that we would do if we're looking for bike ped. They might be able to catch it though, just because if they did the video, it might just be an additional fee for the processing. It also depends on, I think, how they set it up. This will be our first go through with them on that. But if there's interest in that for specific locations, we can definitely
That's the
see.
upper end where.
Yeah.
There's two, it looks like there's on 299 and Henry W. So I'd be interested in just, knowing if there's more traffic there.
Right.
That is on that Empire State Trail, so.
Yeah, I'll
Just
talk
curious.
to them and see if it's
But if it costs
available.
money, it's, don't,
I mean, we have a budget for it if you have a need.
curiosity is not.
Okay. Okay. All right. So
Any other projects?
There's one more project. That'd be project number 5. We now have an executed contract with Transpo
Yes.
to complete our coordinated public transit human services transportation plan. This is a requirement of all metropolitan planning organizations to conduct the coordinated plan, as we call it, every 5 years. So we are doing our 5-year update cycle, and we just had our internal kickoff meeting yesterday with the project consultant. And we hope to be ready to do public engagement for that process in roughly December. The Coordinated Human Services Public Transit Transportation Plan focuses on not only the existing public transit system, but all of the human service agencies that are providing transportation services for the elderly, people with disabilities, and other similar populations throughout Ulster County, with the intent of trying to coordinate those services and use the limited amount of funding that we have available as efficiently as possible. So that will be the effort. And in order to receive the funding source, which is FTA 5310 funding, which is specifically earmarked for transportation for the elderly and people with disabilities, you have to have a completed and updated coordinated plan. So I'm assembling the technical advisory committee for that project now. It will likely include some common public service agencies that you're aware of, agencies like RUPCO and ARC. Obviously, it will include UCAT, whether you've been informed yet or not. Tony or Scott, you're part of the project. And a variety of other human service agencies. So we're looking very forward to getting that project underway. And it's a relatively short period of time. If we can do this correctly and get off on the right foot, we should have draft completion within 6 months. So those are the 5 studies that we have.
Optimization.
Studies that are ongoing. We have 2 more that are in the hopper. That includes, as we already mentioned, the long range transportation plan public engagement process. We also have finally, it will be project contract number 7, the Ulster County Area Transit Route Optimization Study. This is a study that's been discussed at great length with the Ulster County Legislature, various subcommittees of the legislature. The purpose of the study is to take a look at UCAT operations and look for efficiencies and ways that we can optimize the fixed route transit system and ways that we might be able to expand the system where there is need or demand. And if we were to do that, what sort of implications it might have on the existing system in terms of resource allocation, drivers, fixed cap, rolling stock, and fixed capital. It also includes a software assessment. Over the years, Ulster County Area Transit has had a variety of different vendors to contract with software to do any variety of things to assist with routing, with counting boardings and alightments, to assist with federal reporting. So this is an opportunity to review the existing software licenses that we have, really have a frank discussion with the staff to see what might meet staff's needs best going forward. It will involve a total, I don't want to call it an audit, but a full internal review of the system that's being used and recommendations. One of the key elements of this project that really stood out for us, the consultant is Foursquare, who we've worked with in the past, and includes a staff person by the name of Boris Palchik, who we've worked with going back to 2012 when he worked with Nelson Nygaard. We've always been happy with Boris's work. He has a passion for transit, and he has worked with transit agencies throughout the Northeast and throughout the country. So he's very familiar with the UCAT system. But one of the elements of this project, that proposal that we really liked, was what they defined as Project InReach. And that is getting boots on the ground at Ulster County Area Transit and having staff, consultant staff, meeting with mechanic staff, drivers, administration, dispatch, and really asking the UCAT staff, what do you think works well for this agency? Where do you think the improvements can be found? So having those types of discussions. And we always find whenever we do any sort of transit study, the bus drivers have a lot of use to information in particular. So that, I think, would be a beneficial element We do not have an executed contract. We're very close. All the ducks are in a row. We should be getting that contract delivered to us for final signature. I think it's been signed, just needs to be executed.
I had some changes that I had to make, so, yeah.
Okay. So that should be soon. And we'll form a technical advisory committee to get the project started.
Any other updates? Anything from council members?
Should note, one last old business, other business, Traffic Safety Board. Typically meets on the first Monday of the month. That would be November 6th. I do not have agenda items at this time, so that may be postponed.
Thank you, Brian.
Vern, do you want us to talk about the first one?
Oh, yes, thank you. So we received a tip snapshot. Do you have a copy of this, Nicole?
I do, yeah.
Oh, great. And Dennis will
Nicole,
give you-
go ahead.
So, I mean, what Brian has in front of him is a listing of the projects that are on UCTC's tip in FY 24, which starts on October 1st. We've committed to the feds that we're gonna obligate these projects. I believe that it's 4 local projects. Let's see, Ulster County, 2 of them are Ulster County projects, one's Town of Warden and one's Village of Ellenville. So we'll see how performance goes this year. That just means construction obligation has to happen before the end of September of next year. And a piece of good news is that last year's performance, UCTC actually reached 100% of delivery last year for FY 23, which is really impressive considering in prior years we're typically under 50% delivery. So I think, so I think we did a really good job of showing that we can work together going into the federal fiscal year to, see what's really gonna happen and what's really gonna be delivered this year. So hopefully we come out of this current year with another 100.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I
Johnson
think last year
sidewalks
we had
is-
6 projects, so.
Yeah.
And Kerhanson Sidewalks is very close to design approval, I think, last I checked. That's a project that has been many years in the making.
You could just run down the projects.
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't you run them right down, Brian?
There are 4 projects listed. Tongor
Thanks, Dave.
Bridge, which is also kind of DPW bridge. Route 299 Shoulders in the towns of New Paltz and Gardner, which is a project that has been many years in design and right-of-way acquisition. That is an Ulster County DPW project. And then finally, there's a bridge listed in the village of Ellenville.
Route 299 from,
It's 40, yeah,
County Route
that's
7 and
County Route 7 and 8 is Route 299.
Right.
County route numbers, not state route numbers. In that instance. Any questions on that?
but yeah, remind me to go.
Clinton Avenue
I'll
Bridge.
read that one and see it.
So I hate to say this, Brian, anything else?
Hey, you want me to think of something?
I was on, anything else from council members?
I'll make a motion for adjournment.
Thank you, Mr. Litz. I don't need a second. Business is completed. Thank you so much. We're adjourned. Everybody will, one last item. One last item. UCT Policy Committee was scheduled to meet on November 28th.
It's after Thanksgiving.
It's after Thanksgiving, so we'll see you all back then. So have a great Thanksgiving, everybody. Stay safe and stay well.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.